Hello and welcome to another episode of my podcast, 10,000 Hours and Counting, which I share of my experiences as being a spiritual teacher and a mentor, and also just my own walking the path. I like to chat to people that I know and others that I have met on the way. And so today I am here joined by Germaine Chan, who is, as she calls herself, a visionary artist. She works with beautiful I'm going to actually put it over to her in a minute, just explain a bit about what she does. But we met at one of the local markets, and I was drawn to her energy. And I said, I would love to chat with you about the path of the artist and how I feel that that also relates to being a spiritual being. It's very much that sort of following your energy and the energy of creativity and what that means. So, Germaine, thank you for joining me in the space today.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me here. I am so honored and I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm just looking forward to our conversation today.
So am I. And for anyone watching the video, you must go to the video if you're only listening audio. I said to Germaine, did she want to have some of her art available in the space while we're speaking? And so you have this amazing mandala behind you. And I think we'll revisit that a little bit in a moment. But I just wanted to flag the energy of what it means when an artist actually. I think I'd like to just start asking you, when you create your art, do you feel that you start with an energy of an idea inside, or does a flash come to you? Is there some way that you sort of know that your creativity or your impulse is switched on and you have to then follow that thread, or do you sit and receive? How do you begin an art project, I guess, is what I'd like to begin with.
My creative process has actually evolved over time. At the very, very beginning of my entire art journey, I started off by creating through curiosity. Yeah, my first couple of collections that I first made were very technically created, if you will. So that was when I started, entering the spiritual world. In a sense, I was learning so much about everything. I was new to everything, even though where I grew up in Malaysia, I was already exposed to like Buddhist and Taoist culture and all that. Growing up, you don't really actually you don't take too much into awareness or account. You just do things out of family tradition and whatnot. So it's really only in my late 20s when I just started experimenting with my art. And when I first started learning about what chakras are and what the elements were all about, I was just like, oh, okay, I want to actually quote unquote study this a little bit more and then see what happens when I just play around with creating something, right? At the very beginning, that's how it all started. I was just like, oh, everything has to be perfect. My mandalas had to be so geometrically accurate. uh it was definitely an exploration of how I wanted everything to appear perfect. And then the collection after that, it was very different compared to the first two that I did. The first two were very minimal. And then so when I started working on this third collection is called Seasonal Symmetry. It's about the equinoxes and the solstices. And I just somehow just felt like I just wanted to play. So I thought, okay, well, I kind of feel like playing around with color. Well, what can I do to, what can I make out of this, right? And I still wanted to play around with mandalas too, but I wanted to do it in a very different way. And then I just somehow got guided to work on how can I represent the four seasons through this, right? So it's probably my most abstract pieces. People kind of just when they first see it, they think, oh, these are very bright, colorful pieces, or very bright, colorful, mandalas or whatnot. And yeah, so they're actually representing the four seasons in a way. And I really just wanted to get out of that technical mind space and just play and
Mhm.
just really connect with my inner child and just go, how would this feel like? So I was really kind of captivated with that. And it just came out however it came out. And then over time, I started getting deeper into my own spiritual practice. I started learning more about, I started actually learning how Reiki, and I also started learning more about shamanism as well. So that's pretty much my lifelong journey from then forth. And um, eventually, I started being more in tune with what I was hearing, what I was receiving in my mind's eye, it was definitely a process, right? And my one of my other collections, it's got four insects in them. So it's
Hmm.
got a dragonfly, a bee, a scarab beetle, and a moth. And with that, I just really felt drawn to connect with insects. I actually just started seeing them everywhere. And I mean, like you'll see bugs everywhere, right? But I just really started seeing them. I remember there was this one time, um, and I live like in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, so I'm not really close to anywhere near a body of water.
Hmm.
But there was this one time in front of my house, there were like hundreds, 200 dragonflies just flying, in front of my house, right? I was just like, wow, this is so amazing. And the insects just started like coming, like being very forward with me. And because I already started learning more about like Reiki and like shamanic practices too, I actually learned how to connect more with spirit. So that I thought, okay, I want to try to do this, right? So I connected with the dragonfly spirit, the bee spirit, etc. And even though I didn't see what the end product was, all I saw them, and I heard their messages. I asked my questions, they gave me their responses, and it was kind of like this assignment on, okay, how can I actually present this visually based off what I've heard, right? And then over time, like my more recent pieces, I have this collection which is basically my interpretation and representation of the angels.
Hmm.
My first, like I was doing my Reiki master's training, and when I was receiving my healing, that's when I saw one of them, and it was, I don't really know how to describe it accurately in words just yet, but it was like this really intimate knowing of, you already know how to see us, even if you can't physically see us, so go forth and go draw us out. So if you have a look at my initial sketches, they're literally just scribbles.
Hmm.
And then eventually when I'm putting them into like my computer software to make them out, there's really this like constant connection of connecting with the spirit or the angel and whatnot. And now feel a stronger flow of what I'm receiving. And it's also that sense of trust, right? At the very
Hmm.
start of it, my first two collections, I didn't trust. That's why I was being such a perfectionist about how I wanted everything to be so incredibly accurate. And then eventually, the more that I started trusting myself and trusting the guidance I was receiving, it would just come out. It would just be a feeling of, oh, this color is right. The where this line is going through is right. So it's kind of just trusting that even if I felt like I couldn't physically do it, I just kind of just continued to just do it anyway. And then when it was finished, it's like, hey, you're done now. It's just like, yeah, I feel done. So yeah, and I'm just really grateful for this whole process, because and it's a long process too, 10 years, mind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that sense of just learning how to trust and co-create with spirit too has been like the biggest learning experience of my entire life when it comes to expressing my creativity, and I'm so grateful for that.
And thank you for sharing that because it is that co-creation and the levels of trust. And I know that as humans too, we do tend to have a perfectionist or a vision of what we would like to do, what we think we want to do, whatever that is, if it's spirituality or in our work. But it is important, really, the part of the journey is that sort of authenticity of what you're saying. I feel that when we can drop out of what the perfection is, of course, we always do our best, but when you drop out of that, almost that rigidity, and you do drop into a flow of what I would sort of call following the energy, following the impulse. When you talked about the dragonfly spirit, and that the more that you put your focus on something, that energy grows. I think that we need to understand it's that letting ourselves be guided by something, bigger than us almost. And that's where the beauty comes in. And that's where that uncertainty of the artist's path comes in. So you're following something, you have this inner impulse to do it. And if you can get out of your own way as much as possible, it's almost like that thing becomes its own life through you. So you've really just described in that 10-year journey too. I love that you've mentioned that because it very much is about taking the journey. And as humans, we sort of want things to happen instantly, or we want it to be overnight success, or have it just be ready and perfect. But there's something about that journey of surrender, of making it a dance between you and the art or your life, and it's not just a one-way thing. So you've really, thank you for bringing that to the space. And I wanted to talk to you too, because one of the things I saw on your Instagram when we were connecting initially was you said you're doing a legacy art sale right now that you're selling off, and the collections that you've spoken with the beautiful insects, and then the seasons. That was what I noticed, your seasonal solstice altar cloth. You're moving those through so that you can start to focus on a new way of creating. And you were talking about the sort of the vulnerability of letting something go that had been a big part of the journey and feeling excited for that, but also the new was very unknown. And I said to you, that to me is the soul's path. So, what would you say about how it's been going with the legacy sale, or what part are you at on that journey of the new coming through you, and how are you feeling about that right now?
Well, so with that legacy art sale, it just kind of happened. It just kind of hit me by surprise as well that this was actually what I wanted to go through with too. So yeah, just to give you a bit of context too, I had my first ever solo exhibition last year,
Mhm.
and it was a very very special and monumental occasion for me because last year was the year of the dragon, and I'm born in the year of the dragon. And even like the year before that, I thought, oh, year of the dragon's coming up. I really want to do something with in this year. I want to do something special. And I thought, you know what, I should really just go and organize my first solo art exhibition, right? So I did that, and it was, there was so many, again, like everything is a learning experience, right? And it was really an opportunity for me to just show me as I am to the world, to my friends. I have many friends who have been following me from the very start of when I first, released my first art collection. And then obviously have made new connections along the way. I've also lost connections along the way. And I guess like in those 10 years, right, I'm still I'm still focused on doing this because this is truly what I'm passionate about. So yeah, so when I hosted this exhibition, I did it in such a way where even people who hadn't been with me from the start could actually experience what I was experiencing through my artwork from the start. So it was pretty much for everybody. And also the way that I did it was I wanted it to be an immersive exhibition. So every time before you enter a section which was represented by a collection of work. There was a little story behind that, and then a little mindfulness prompt. So it really just gave people a chance to take their time with my art, but also experience my form of storytelling with my art.
Mm.
And so one of my friends helped me with that, and the way that we like wrote out the story was really also capturing what I was experiencing in real life. But
Mhm.
you like nobody would know that because you're reading a story, right? But I knew it because it was my story. I would just present it in a very different way. And the exhibition was a complete success. And by the end of it, I went, yep, like this is great. This is like the end of my first chapter. It took me this long. And of course, I had to battle those thoughts of like, oh, but like it took so long, like, you're so slow and all these things. Everyone's making art every day, and you take like a year and a half to do 5 pieces or something like that. But it's always the case. And even now I'm still learning to not be so hard on myself with how long it takes me to make what I do, because I just make my art in my way, in my time, right? And so anyway, so that was the little summary about last year. And I wanted to show up more again, and so I started doing more events and all that too. And the last few months especially, I thought I just want to do the new stuff, because new stuff I can feel it's so empowering. I kind of know how to present my work a lot better now. Like I receive so much information that sometimes it does get a little bit overwhelming. And it's just more of like, okay, when there's so much up, like hanging up, like above my crown or my head, I know that I really need to just pull it down and anchor it in, and use my hands to bring it to life, right? And
Yes.
yeah, there's just there's like a backlog of like a backlog of ideas that wants to actually come through. And I just felt like, hmm, I need to let go of things, right? I need to let go a little bit more so that I have or open up space for myself so that I can actually have more clarity when I'm creating what I want to create or what wants to be created. And even so that's when I decided, you know what, like I've spent a lot of time not sharing my work
Hmm.
and I no longer want to feel any guilt or shame about that. It's taken me a long time to really uh, to work on my form of expression through speaking about my work
Hmm.
and feeling confident and feeling like my work is good enough and whatnot. I think that's just like a really common block that so many artists, not just artists, like musicians or speakers, poets, and all that. Everyone with a creative voice, they will go through these blocks, right? Of like, oh, like maybe my stuff is not good enough and whatnot. And
Mm.
especially because of last year, I went, no, my work has been amazing and my work is evolving, and I'm just going to continue on this path that's been set for me. And now it's just time to let the earlier part of me go, because the person that started Empath Designs was such a curious being. She was learning so much and experiencing so much. And when I look back, I'm just so grateful for everything that she was going through, because
Yeah.
all that experience and that I've gained and the lessons that I've learned from that, I can now actually express myself even more confidently through the work that I do now. And yeah, so I just felt like it's time to let that past self of me rest. She's done so much already,
Yep.
and I can do that by just retiring my earlier collection. So it would be like actually three of my 3.5 collections, if you will. So it's like
Yes.
my first flower collection was all about learning about mandalas and flower medicine and the chakras. And then the second collection was 5 animals. That was to do with the 5 elements, and then and also animal medicine, right? And then the third one was the one I was talking about before, about the 4 seasons, and that was just learning how to connect with our environment. And I think that's why, like, when I started learning more about shamanism, it was just really learning about how may I connect with everything around me, right? And actually, I realized how important it is too, because I'm so supported, right? Spirit
Hmm.
supporting me in so many different ways, and now I know actually how to listen to my not just my guidance, but also feel inspired and reel that into whatever artwork that I am working on. And
So I like what you're saying. I was just thinking, because there's so much beauty here, and I want to share that again with people, that what you're talking about is that need to create, which you started with when you said the first aspect of you, what you brought through, and trusting that it is enough. And would you say there's almost a part of you as the artist, as the creator, that feels that you do have to create it, even when there's some self-doubt about it? You can't actually just not do it. You can't ignore the impulse. And so you show up sort of to the process and you make that offering. And I think it's important for everybody to realize we make these small offerings, we put ourselves out in there in the world as much as we're capable at the time. And that gives you more of the confidence, what you've just said, to keep doing that, to keep listening and trusting. But I think that when you've got that creative energy, even if you feel it's not good enough, some part of you, the songwriter, somebody will write it down. In some way, it's got to come out of you. And I also want to remind everybody, you were talking about that incoming energy coming through the crown chakra, and you were taking the time to ground it into the body, because I'm big on that. I say we need to work on integrating spiritual energy, otherwise, it's just concepts. So I appreciate you sharing this part of your path. And I actually want to go back to that and ask you a little bit when you're talking about the incoming creative spark, the life force, the guidance, and how you integrate that. And you talked about the other aspect of you, of letting her rest now so that new can come through. That to me signals really a soul who's willing to experiment in the best way with their light and their path. And so I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about your process of receiving information. And has that changed now with this new art form that's coming through you? Or would you say you just keep refining your trust in that incoming wisdom and how you can offer it through your being?
I would say it's definitely refining. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a refinement. It's yeah, like the way that I receive ideas or inspiration and whatnot, it kind of differs, right? Sometimes I will actually see something in my mind's eye. It will just pop through, and I have to make sure that I sketch it out, or at least even just write some keywords so that I can remember about it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I will actually hear something like, as an example, if okay, yeah, like let's come back to the dragonfly example,
Mm.
right? All these dragonflies and stuff, and sometimes I may hear like this little voice that says, yeah, you should do dragonflies. I'm like, okay, all right. And then I might not pay attention to it at first, and then later on I'll see something else. It's like dragonflies,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. And for me also, and I'm still kind of learning more about how I can anchor this into, again, like my creative process has evolved over time, right? I'm learning more now that when I have an urge to actually create something, I really need to go with it. This urge is such a strong urge, and it's kind of like you're you are suddenly just so hyped up to, go exercise or something like that.
Mhm.
So it'd be like, okay, you really just need to get into the studio and switch on your computer and actually just start doing it, right. And sometimes this urge can last, you know for a couple of weeks or for a few months. It really just depends. It's just different every time, and I'm just learning now to refine how I'm surrendering through this process, even if I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. Do I really want to do this? So yeah, like for example, like one of my feature pieces that I did for my exhibition last year was a dragon piece, right? And I thought, yeah, like, I need to do like a dragon piece for the dragon year, especially coming from someone born near a dragon. Like, it'll be the best feature piece for the exhibition, right? And it was a very in like I would say humbling and yet intense experience too, because every time there would be this urge to like, okay, work on the dragon right now. And then when I'm working on them, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm
Resistance.
doing. Yeah. And, dragons are such magnificent creatures, right?
Yes.
I really wanted to honor the dragon spirit as well and make sure
Mm.
that if I'm going to be doing a dragon, this dragon needs to be good enough. So to just be this, and then I'll be literally just be meditating with the spirit of the dragon and say, I don't know if I'm good enough for this. Like you're really hard to draw.
Yeah.
And then I still remember this. It's not word for word, but basically, the guidance I got was like, just do it. Like, you've got this. You just do it. I will help you with it.
That's
And
what I wanted to, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
that's what I wanted to ask you about. Do you feel very much that spirit, whether it's the spirit of the mandala or the being or the season, you talked about the tuning into the winged creatures and
yeah,
receiving their frequency and their message. So do you feel that there's a point where you have the spark and the inspiration, and I can hear you saying you then surrender, and then you have incoming. So that's where that co-creation
yeah,
comes, where your mind has to begin the spark. It's like the tinder, but then you have to let the next part come in. And I love you saying to Dragon Energy, I don't really feel good enough, to do this, to represent you. And yet the strength of the energy comes through. They want you to do it because it's unique to your being. So I'm really interested in you, and I think that's beautiful that you take the time to not only have that spark of wanting to create the art, but allow it to almost speak through you and to be heard in the world,
yeah. No,
seen,
no, 100%.
sensed.
Yeah, 100%. And I think again, it's all about that surrender and that trust
Mm.
that I don't know how it works, to be honest, still, but it's just going, okay, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm just gonna trust. I'm just gonna do it. And
Yeah.
then when I get into this flow state, it just happens, right? And after, maybe because I take lots of regular breaks too, because I work on the digitally on the computer. um
Yep.
and then, so yeah, so let's just say every 10-15 minutes or whatever, I take a step back. I'm like, okay. And then it's also, for me, like, from my own skill set, I'll be like, nah, that color is like not right, or I'm actually looking at things from my more technical background, as from graphic design and multimedia design and whatnot. And then
Hmm.
after that, there's also this sense of, okay, let's just say I'm working out the color of the dragon's hair as an example. I was just like
Mhm.
playing around, just like, oh, I really don't know, I'm really stuck right now, right? And then I'll take that moment to just quiet, and then maybe I'll just go for a walk or whatever it is, to step away from the screen, and then I'll just hear it's just like, no, no, it's going to be like this, right? I'm like, okay, all right, and then I'll come back to it. So it's just really back and forth. It's like the
Yeah.
spirits on my clients, basically.
Yes, I feel that. Yeah. But that's your willingness to listen, because I think that for anyone thinking about artistic energy, if you're not an artist, people might assume that it's a certain way where it just sweeps you up and you do it, and it's all sort of, you're talking about the need to step back at different times. And I find that very powerful too, that there's only so much when I talk about the energy of divine timing, where you can act, but sometimes you're being asked to wait, and that's part of the process, and that's where the beauty comes from. We talked earlier about, I said to you, I noticed you have your mandala behind you and you're also wearing it on your shirt. And I've seen you have little enamel pins. So you take different aspects. I saw the beautiful, would you call them wood cuttings, Germaine, of the insects? Yeah. So you take
uh,
your art and you then make a version of it in different mediums. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, of what that means to you, because someone might just do it in one way, and maybe how guidance has shared with you that art is personal to the people who receive it from you, or why you love to do that, to use different mediums for the one image, perhaps, what that means.
Yeah, I think if there's gonna be so many other people like me that I'm unaware of, right? That actually have similar tastes to me too. And I like to enjoy art in different ways. And I'm so sure that there are so many other people that feel the exact same way too, right? And I think also because I work digitally, I think it gives me more flexibility on what I can create from my work. So yeah, as an example, with the dragonfly and bee prints that I have, I decided to make little pins for them. And it's actually been so interesting seeing my customers buy these pins, right? They'll be like, oh, like this person loves dragonflies, I'm going to get this for her. Or someone will be like, oh, I love bees, this would be great for my collection. And or they buy a print or a card or whatever it is, right? It's I love just hearing how people receive it, because sometimes people are not buying it for themselves or because they felt guided to a particular animal or insect or whatever. Some people are thinking about other people in their life, and I think that's what's beautiful about art, is that art connects people in such a intimate way. Even doesn't have to be like a big giant canvas print on the wall, but even something so small, um, you can already sense that heartfelt connection between the giver and the receiver. And I just love that. And also I think, yeah, like pretty much as you said, people like to enjoy art in different ways, and I think it's just fun to also just see how one art piece can be presented in different ways, but at the same time that same message is still being shared across to the person receiving it.
Yeah. It's like a bit of an energy transmission. I feel like you've put your energy out and created the image, and then it's able to, it's a bit like someone receiving a crystal or taking a mandala in their car. It's energy, it's spiritual energy. It'll mean something different to everyone. Someone might think it's the color they've bought it for, but it's like a transmission of spiritual energy that I think in some way helps people to be a touchstone to remind them, that we're more than just sort of the material world, to open to those five senses, open to the beauty. And what you talked about before, sort of learning the mysterious language of how spiritual energy works with you and your being and your mind. For each of us, there's a different way of some message that comes through. So I love to think of you sharing your heart essentially in the art, but then having all these platforms for it to come through, and working with technology in order to bring about this creativity and to reach more people. So that's a very powerful thing as well.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for this process. Again, it's hard to, pull yourself back in and go, stop comparing yourself to everyone. Everyone's journey is
Yeah.
just so different, right? People make art for different reasons. Some people do it for fun, some people do it for a higher purpose, some people can literally have that energy to make art every single day. Some people can't. Some people do it in cycles.
Mm.
And I've had to come to terms as well, an acceptance that I don't make art every day. I simply
Mhm.
can't. I have a, like, basically, yeah, I go through my cycles, and I just have to trust that it's okay for me to do this because, again, it's like timing as well, right?
Mm.
The piece will come when it wants to come, and the piece will finish when it is ready to be finished. And that
Yes.
is so hard to for me to learn too, because yeah, sometimes I just want to finish it because I just want to work on something else, or so many other reasons too. And then sometimes I know for myself that if I don't finish something, it will never get finished. Because I'm very good at starting things. Finishing things, I don't know. I think I'm still learning about what that means to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to finish it because I'm potentially afraid of what could happen from that. Maybe
Right.
there's that fear of, oh, again, this piece might not be good enough, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just learning now to just be really in acceptance of myself, that I create art when the art wants to be created. I
Hmm.
don't have to push myself or rush myself. But if I do give myself a deadline and I do get to finish it, even better, right? But I think it's important for me to just give myself compassion, that like I am this kind of artist. I will just make out when it comes to me and when it needs to be done.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. It's that authenticity, and we need to all be able to sort of trust our own energy. We were talking about our energy before we started, of when you output and when you need to receive. And I know that the way the world is set up at the moment isn't really so attuned to that. It's sort of just constant on, go, go. But there are those of us who are able to live in different ways, or certainly think differently. And I was saying to you, it's a lifelong journey of how do you manage your own energy? And for those of us who do want to output it, or we are outputting it a lot for our clients or in the world, it is really important to find ways to plug in and to receive back. But what I'm hearing you say too about the projects that go on for quite a while, I feel like you're almost the sort of the tea bag. You have to steep, it has to steep in you, and you have to steep in it. And it might even be a process that it seems like it's not sort of going anywhere. But I feel like when, it's always that under the surface, there's always energy of creation happening. And oftentimes for me, divine timing, I say to people, we don't always know the why of it, but we also sort of can't fight the truth of allowing the process to unfold. And even if in hindsight we don't fully know, there's something beautiful and empowering about having been willing to take the step, to wait, to not try and force the issue, because it is tempting to want to do. So I love that you're saying that there's a part of you that can, you still have the human frustrations, of course we do, but we need to, as a spiritual being, we sort of somehow we drop beneath that first reaction and we allow our process to unfold and be kind to ourselves. As you say, we're all different, all artists, all souls. And so no one is going to be the same as another. And we do need to, I always remind myself even, we need to stop comparing to others. Only if you want to compare of sort of being empowered and uplifted and think that's really awesome, but not I am not as good, because that
Yeah.
spirit doesn't see it that way. But we need to be brave enough to have the courage to say, oh, I don't feel good enough. So there's some interesting dance about acknowledging it, but then not becoming it, but also not pretending that feeling isn't there. So it's the authenticity I hear you saying, and I really like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a continuous learning process for me. Yeah, growing up as well, it was just like, there was a very specific structure of
Hmm.
like how you getting your schoolwork done or whatever it was, and there was also this sense of how your creativity is expected to
Hmm.
be received as well. And I just love that, like, especially in the last 10 years, even in like a spiritual space, when you see all these emerging artists come up and express themselves in such different ways. It's just amazing to see how people are just putting themselves out there and not feeling like they need to hide in the shadows anymore. And I definitely felt that for a long time. I definitely felt like, oh, I'm not like this person, or I would receive feedback saying, oh, but if you did it like that person, or if you did it like this, like I remember someone saying, oh, why didn't you do more dot works here? Or why didn't you do more like super psychedelic trippy stuff or whatever it is? I'm just like, yeah, but no, I
Hmm.
really don't want to. I just want to do it my way. And you're gonna receive feedback and opinions from people, no matter what you do, right? I mean, that's just the world, I guess. And it's just really being able to be strong in your own power and self worth. That what you're creating is amazing and good enough, and just keep doing it. And even if you have some quote unquote bad artwork, I mean, can
Mm.
artwork really be bad? I
I
mean,
don't
it's,
see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even, and we are also our worst self critics too,
Yes.
right? 100%. And yeah, like, I think for me in particular, it's just trusting that I'm just going to do this. I really don't care what people will think about it, or if they think I should do this or do that. I'm going to do this because I feel that it's right, and I know that it's right.
Mm.
And you know what? Even if I don't like it, at least I made it, and then I
Yeah.
can work on something else. Yeah. And just to circle back also with the legacy art sale that I did in retiring my early collections, like um it's like I felt, not to say a disconnect, but I just felt like, okay, it's time for you guys to rest. Like, you've already brought so much to the plate for me, right? It's not to say that I can't, take some aspects of my earlier collections and infuse it into my newer pieces. In fact, I probably will. And it's just an evolution, right? It's just an evolution. Like I did this tiger the first time, and then eventually I remixed it, if you will, to
Yeah.
add more vibrancy to it. And that was pretty much an evolution of the first tiger that I did. So I can only imagine that that will happen again.
Mm.
Maybe not with the tiger, but with my other artworks, I will take um, aspects of what I've already done in the past and infuse it, but like put more of my current me in it now, and make it more expensive than it used to be. So yeah, I think that's just when I decided to do that, I thought it just felt so right. I just felt this weight lifted off me. Like, I don't have to keep holding on to all the old things that I did, imperfect or perfect as it was,
Yeah.
because I now have more space for me to just go with what I feel guided to bring to the table and to express myself freely.
And somehow it's almost a composting. I feel like in letting go, as you say, it may come back and it will because it's part of your soul song. But I think that we need to learn how to let go of what we think is useful, some of the tools, or put them down for a while in order to let the next sort of spiral of the path come through us. I think that there's definitely some beauty about being willing to say, this has worked, but I just feel like I need to explore something, different. And just for anyone out there dealing with the energy of perfectionism, which frankly would really be all of us, understanding that is actually the perfectness to me is the process of putting something out into the world. To me, it's like a conversation with the divine. I feel like I show up, I offer mine sort of to the universe in a way and to whoever needs it. But I have to be brave enough to follow that impulse and just put it out into the world. And whatever happens to it, it doesn't matter, but it needed to come out. And so the idea of waiting for perfectionism is really just a sort of a fool's game, because is anything perfect? And yet things come out perfectly when they're imperfect, because it comes with the authenticity, the layers of truth. And if you hadn't released that into the world, it might have sort of clogged up the rest of what wants to come through you. So it's that journey of witnessing where you're at, having it be in the world, and then allowing yourself to evolve. You said evolve a number of times. And I love that, because I think people are so wanting things to be out there and just perfect straight away and be digestible. But are they more digestible when there's layers and frequencies of that one person, and we see more of you as you share more, and the energy comes through differently and is received differently? But the worth of that wouldn't be as powerful in the now with moving through the legacy collection if the legacy collection hadn't ever come into the world and been birthed and shared. So it's that vulnerability and that willing to share what is there in the timing that it comes through, and then yeah, almost I feel like recompost it and reuse it. But if you don't admit to yourself that it's time to put down the tools for a minute and wait and see what's next, you won't necessarily be open to that same level of inspiration and beauty that comes through.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, yeah, I think also just trusting that the direction that I want to go
Mm.
is because of, yeah, all the everything that I've learned, technically speaking or not technically speaking. Maybe just even just like learning how to be one with my process has also taught me that. When I first started working on my earlier collections too, um, I felt like perhaps maybe back then, when I look back now, maybe it was a slightly more chaotic process. I mean, everyone goes through that, right? Again, it's a learning experience. And now I feel like my creative process is more refined. Like I just go, okay, bam, I know what's going to happen now. All I need to do is just launch my software, put on some music, maybe light some incense, and then just get into it, right? And sometimes I do need to force myself a little bit to, okay, you just need to just, like shake and move your body a little bit just to just get into your body and
Mm,
actually just, start the first 5-10 minutes. Even if you don't know how you want to start it, maybe
mhm.
just, play with color or just make some simple shapes. And then, once I just start that, then I can actually get into that flow. It's just like a little warm up, if you will. And
Yeah,
yeah, like I think back when like even the first, let's just say, 5-6 years of me creating my artwork, it was like, oh, I don't know, like, I don't know what to do. And I think, if with my alongside with my own spiritual practice, my spiritual practice has complemented how I'm actually going to be working on my art. And I think that's also very important, for I think for everyone to realize that you need some kind of personal practice to actually get yourself into, that state before you actually, get into creation, right? I think a
mm,
lot of people do it, maybe without them realizing that they're already doing it.
yeah,
So nowadays, ritual is quite important for me. Even if it's as simple as just lighting an incense, that's pretty
yes,
much me going, yep, I'm ready to start creating, I'm ready to start receiving, I'm ready to start, playing. Or maybe today is just going to be a day just for experimenting. Maybe today might be a day literally just me working on the background of this artwork, and that's it. No expectations. And I think that's where I used to get caught up with, right? Alongside with the perfectionism is I set crazy expectations for myself that, oh, it's a mandala, I should really finish this in an hour's time. And then 5 hours later, I'm like, but this mandala is not perfect. Right? And yeah, so and then these days, especially like last year when I was preparing for my exhibition,
Mhm.
I already had these things that was already in my sketchbook, and they're like, you need this for your exhibition, right? I'm like, okay, I don't know how I did it last year. I've been saying this to my friends recently because my exhibition was held on the 8th of August last year.
Mhm.
So it was, yeah, pretty much towards the end of winter. And May, June, July, I was just bam, just like really focused on creating my art pieces. And I don't know how I finished 6 pieces, but I did. And I think that goes to show how you can really, when you know how to harness, energy into just getting something done. Of course, the deadline helped, but yeah, I managed to get that done. But in this year, the last couple of months have been an absolute struggle into my creative space. And there's a few factors with that. I was doing quite a few events, so I was showing up and sharing my work to so many more newer people as well. Like spending quality time with family and all that. And I was also, just kind of, trying to put myself a little bit first, just to rest a bit more.
Mm,
And I'm looking forward to the next couple of months of just quiet time to now actually put my energy into my unfinished art pieces. I realized the energies are very different. Like last year, for me in particular, I had just all this surplus. I was like, okay, great. Now I
mm,
can just boom, get it all done. And then this year is really a year that's calling me to slow down, because
mhm,
when I can slow down, I will receive more clarity on how I'm going to work on my new art pieces, especially the newer pieces in the different direction from my older pieces, right?
mm,
And I have not been comfortable about it. I'm like, oh, but I really should be making stuff. But like,
mm.
Spirit is like, no, you need to be slowing down.
Yeah, and
So
it's the
yeah.
many aspects, I think, of the self, which we mentioned a bit off camera, of the idea that as the artist, of course, you create in your own space, but there are times when you need to be in the world sharing that. And so it's about your own growth edge to understand what I want to offer or the work that I do. There'll be times when I'm doing it myself and creating, and times when I need to be maybe not my favorite part, but being out in the world. But when you follow the energy, all of those aspects seem to be fine at the right time. And I like what you're saying about even now the new process, even though there's the excitement of how I will create. Part of you, part of the mind, I suppose, still wants to give you the checklist of how to do it. Remember we did this last time? But the truth is, it's always different. And I like you talking about the energy of following it, because we know, collective energy, world energy is always shifting and changing, but our personal energetic seasons, almost, if you like, can also shift and change. And we do need to lean into that sort of fine frequency of what is working for me now, and not sort of be holding on to or be beholden to the way it was in the past, but just follow that frequency now and allow yourself to receive. Because when you are a creative or you offer spiritual energy and there's so much output, and for those of us who do that, I know that it's almost, we can't not do it. It's an organic part of us to share in the world, but then it does require that sort of um, building blocks of how do I then receive more of that energy so that my cup is always full, so that whether I'm promoting my work or my art or I'm creating it, I'm full with that energy and I'm not feeling depleted. And that is always going to shift and change.
Yeah, I'm definitely learning that and learning to uh not just be in tune with my, my environment as well, about okay, like when is it good for me to actually go out there and actually, present myself, present my work and all that, or when am I needing to actually be in more solitude and quiet space so that I can actually, fill my cup more, however it is, before I can actually feel comfortable to just get it done. And I know lots of people are going to say different things about their creative process, right? Like sometimes people will be like, yeah, but sometimes you just really need to just do it, right? Just do it. I'm like, yes, I used to be like that. And yeah, I mean, again, it's circumstantial, right? Absolutely circumstantial.
Yeah.
And now, especially like this year, because I know that I've done so much already, and I think also in line with me choosing to, let go of some of my earlier collections too, whether it's through stock or, whatever it is, um, that shedding process, if you will, also in line with the year of the snake, I
Yeah.
feel that it's that really big. Um, it's just so necessary for me to feel that I'm not carrying any other old past limiting beliefs as well, because that's kind
Mm.
of like an extension also of my old artwork. Not to say that there's anything bad about my artwork, but I think it's because that subconsciously I go, okay, this earlier collection was coming from someone who just felt so shy about just sharing what she was learning.
Yeah.
Now, when I am making my artwork, I feel that, okay, I'm learning more about, let's just say, I'm learning more about self acceptance. All right, I want to be able to share that, and I'm not going to get this right. Everyone's going to have different perspectives about it, and that's okay. I'm just sharing my perspective of what I'm learning, and it's going to change again maybe in a few years' time or whatever it is.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, that's for me definitely what I'm going through at the moment. And I'm understanding now why I need to slow down and not force myself to push myself to get this
Mm.
artwork done for from a business perspective, if you will. Because
Yeah.
I know, like, yeah, some people kind of say, oh yeah, but from a business perspective you need to have, limits or a quota or whatever it is that they say. I'm
Mm.
just like, yeah, but my business is just different from a lot of people. It goes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a different flow altogether, and I can't force that because this is just how my business is meant to be, right? And yeah, back then when I first started, I would say definitely the first 5 years, I
Yeah.
had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was that I just wanted to make art that felt good with me and just share that with the world. So I made a lot of business mistakes. From then, like I over ordered things, or I cared too much about eco-friendly packaging, which all
Mm-hmm.
eventually I had to throw out anyway. Or this again, I remember buying something thinking it was made in Australia, but it was actually made somewhere else. I was just like, oh, I didn't realize that that all happened. And yeah, so from that I just thought, oh, like I have to do all these things because blah 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 blah. This is the expectation of how society wants to see successful artists. But what
Mm.
I really realized when I was slowing down this year is that I'm already successful because I get to create art, and co-created with spirit, and I get to share that with the world. I
Yes.
don't need to conform myself to all these different business expectations to show that I'm a successful entrepreneur or anything. I'm already successful in that way. And I really only reached that when I just slowed down and went, oh, actually, it's been a great 10 years. It's been fantastic. I can't believe I have this privilege, honor, and opportunity to do this. And I think having that gratitude tie everything together has just made me go, you know what? I don't need to make art today. It's fine. It's fine. It's not coming to me today. I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to enjoy my quality time with my family. I'm going to go do something that fills my cup, however it is, and I'll meditate if I feel like I want to get more inspiration or something, or more guidance about how am I going to tackle my next art piece that perhaps I'm struggling with, technically speaking, or whatever. But now I'm just like in more of a nicer flow, which I think is just giving me myself more compassion. I'm so grateful for that.
I can see too from what you've said there that it really is about your energetic offering to people through your art and why they'll be attracted, because you're actually going through a process. There's the different parts of the self-doubt. And so you're offering a package of energy that you have worked through and processed and turned into beauty. So people who might be feeling the edges of not being able to have compassion for themselves or being too hard on themselves can see your art or receive it or wear it. And there's something about they have got that little piece of the puzzle of you being willing to be that conduit, as you say, not a business model, a conduit for energy where you process it, you package it, you experience it. You're in the middle of the process and you're like, am I doing this? What is this? What is wrong with the dragon? And you call in divine help. And then you sort of, I feel like it ties it off and you send it out there into the world. So that's definitely someone who is offering, what I say again, energy transmissions that can't be quantified in the same business way. And yet so many more of us now are offering ourselves in the world in these ways. So that's your courage. And I think the beauty of people receiving your art, whatever they think about it, it's part of your energy. And I like you talking about refinement too, of being willing to. That's so beautiful that you can look at that process and say it is success, and have that self love in reflection, in hindsight. I think for a lot of us, as you get older, you can do that. And it doesn't mean that it was wrong when you were younger and pushing yourself. It's just how the journey was. And then you learn from that. And you can think what courage the younger part of you had for just showing up all of the time with those overwhelming fears or those doubts or the confusion. But there is something about refining. We talked about the year of the snake a little bit in our pre-chats, and I think for all of us on Earth, I do want to sort of say to us, we're at this really big moment of, transition and transformation, and the ability to really start to create a whole new way of us being here on Earth and creating and connecting to each other and to her, to Gaia. So these times haven't really existed. I say unprecedented times. So it's good if we can be willing, as I said, but put down our tools before and be willing to open to new ways of us being us. And it's not so much change as what you said, it's refinement. It's when you know better, you do better. And so it's allowing more of our truth and our authenticity to come to the surface and to be realized, and to be willing to release anything that is not actually in alignment with what the soul note wants to be now. And all these people being in alignment with their soul note, their truth, their frequency really does help to lift the frequency of the planet and is really very important in that ephemeral spiritual sense. So it's a powerful thing to consider.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I don't know. I think for me, especially, I still feel like I'm just scratching the surface of everything, right? I'm sure so many people would be feeling that as well. And I think for me in particular, personally, with when I'm comparing the energies of like this year, like how I am managing it this year and last year too, I realized as well that prioritizing my inner peace is really important, especially now. Like life is just busy, and
Mhm.
I get it, I'm a parent too, so life is busy, and it can get very, very full and full on, and people will be very demanding of so many things, whether it's through business or through personal life too. And I think for a lot of creative people out there, they might feel afraid to say no to so
Mhm.
many things. And I'm getting a lot better at that too, when it comes to just protecting and prioritizing my inner peace as well, because I realize that, you know, for me to be able to express myself authentically through my artwork, my heart space and my own, inner peace needs to be intact, if you will.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will just kind of just steer me off the path, and I'll get distracted with so many different things, like so many different dramas and whatnot. And when you, I guess, the more self-aware that you start being, especially of your own energy and how you're spending it or how you're giving it away, you realize that, wow, actually, I don't realize that I'm actually giving so much of myself away to other people.
Mm.
And yeah, that's I'm forever learning that. And I think it's just so important because now I'm realizing that for me to be able to do what I want to be doing with my art, I really need to be reeling that all back into myself. So
Mm.
that's gonna probably look like, me saying no to spending time with my friends, or me saying no um, to different invitations. Like I actually got invited to have a stall at this event. It was kind of like, it sounded kind of a last minute invitation too, which was fine. But then
Yeah.
when I was just like, oh, I haven't heard of this event before, right? Just let me have a look at it. And I looked at it. I was just like, oh, okay. They're saying that it's like a 12-hour day with like a 3-hour break in between. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
something like that as an example. I'm like, I'm not investing a week of my time to do this event because I know that afterwards it's going to take me a while to replenish my energies from that, right? Because
Yeah.
doing an event isn't just about presenting and sharing my work. It's also about conversing with people, and when you do the maths, it's like, actually that's too many, that's a lot of energy. Like, not like, will it even be worth my time of
Yeah.
me being there? Like, could I have a better use of my time doing something else? And sometimes there's also that discomfort of when you're not doing anything, you're like, should I really be doing something too?
Mm.
Like, should I, we have this like, oh, you're productive if you get all this stuff done. And I have to remind myself that me resting is also good for me and it's
Yeah.
necessary for me, right? However that is, whether it's emotionally or mentally or physically or whatever. So, um, yeah, just learning to go to say no, even to, forcing myself to do something that I don't really feel like doing sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a balance, though. It is a balance. Sometimes you do need a little bit of a push to actually just get it going, but sometimes you're just like, no, like I don't need to actually listen to this external pressure that is trying to make me do something that I don't actually have that need to do. To
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a
You
balancing act.
Yeah, and you do have to experiment with it. You're right, because there'll be times we were just talking earlier, you had a really big, even just June of events and putting your art out there, and that all felt so right. And then there'll be times when it's much quieter, but there is that temptation, I guess, for people, if you're offered many invitations and certainly many platforms for your work, perhaps, to really pull it back and almost, I think, say a little bit no to more things until you feel the frequency of which path to follow, because we're sort of taught to splatter ourselves out everywhere and get someone to have a little bit of us everywhere. But the sort of universal spiritual truth is if you can pull back more, and you're talking about boundaries, it's so important for energy. If you can work with your own boundaries and sometimes say no a bit more, but you allow your soul, you allow spirit to guide you, you will not miss out on the opportunities you need, but you do need to be aware that everything, saying yes to everything, can be a temptation, but sometimes the power of no will propel you forward much more powerfully than just being part of everybody's agenda. And everyone will want something different from you, and that's fair enough. They don't know all the people who are asking you things. So we need to, no one's going to give you the time that you need for you. So you do need to, as you say, carve it out. Be kind enough to yourself to admit that you need that. And I'm certainly a big believer in that, in just carving back from all those opportunities and dialing it back down to one or two that feel strong for me, and being willing to wait on those opportunities, maybe the ones that seemed not quite as shiny but more powerful. You're looking at the gem in the mud, and you can see some real power in there, and pulling back the focus from everything, all the constant incoming, and allowing yourself to be that sort of vessel for the light, as you say, caring for yourself. When you can fill yourself up, you've got more to give everyone, those around you, and more to give, to your art or your light work or whatever it is you're giving the world.
I love that you emphasized on the word wait. I am actually quite an impatient person. The amount of times that I've heard, be patient, be patient, be patient. I'm like, okay. And patience is, yeah, um, something that just goes for me. This is an ongoing theme. And I think that's why slowing down has been tricky for me, because I've just been so used to being on the go, go, go side of things. Even when I used to freelance or had my previous jobs at like design agencies and whatnot. This is quite a while back now. And it's such a fast growing environment. Even school or work or whatever it is, everyone's like, go, 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 go. So slowing down has, especially this year, is quite quite eye opening for me to just go, yeah, like, it's safe for me to slow down. It's safe for me to rest. It's safe for me to take my time, even if I only spend half an hour just drawing out leaves and literally only drawing out leaves on this art
Mm.
piece. That's more than enough today. That's fine. And then
Yeah.
there's going to be days where I'm going to feel energized and go, yeah, let's just get all this stuff done with, this art piece I'm working on, whatever it is. And most of the time I'll surprise myself. I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. Ooh, that's great. And I realized too that that would come from this space of, yeah, this space of space, right? Like spaciousness where I didn't put any pressure. I didn't feel hard on myself. I didn't, feel like I needed to, put myself towards this high expectations of this has to be X, Y, Z, right? It was just this really nice space of flow that just comes in, and that's usually the I guess the byproduct of me resting. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely eye opening for me.
And it's almost like we need to reprogram ourselves away from that way the world has been for so long, go, 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 because it's not the only way and it doesn't always produce the best results. But when we're in the world,
Mm,
even though we're not of it, it is still navigating those ways that things are done. So being brave enough to say, hang on a minute, I am putting the brakes on for me. And I wanted to ask, you just said before about hearing wait. Do you mean from your guidance, you get the message of wait, or you get an inner feeling, something says to you, a voice or energy? Would you describe? Because if you're impatient, what actually does get you to wait? What would you say about that?
I will take a few breaths. Usually is my guidance, right? It's
Yeah.
the guidance I get. It's just be patient. Like, okay, okay, I'll wait now.
But you follow it. This is the important thing. You know that that's something outside of you, that's wisdom, that's love, that's support, and you know, okay, I'm going 100 miles an hour. I will just relax in. I will just wait. And that's the key to it. It's learning to listen outside of what your mental processes are and listen to the heart and then perhaps the voice of spirit. And when it can be very soft, it's not going to be huge and demanding, but it can be very insistent, very strong and loving and supportive. And that takes courage to listen to that voice in the midst of
Mm,
everything else that's going on. But at the same time, those of us who listen to it, you feel, what else would I do? I can't act against that voice.
yep, yep. Yeah. Again, it's just taken. It's a continuous journey with this one. And like, yeah, as you said, it's like retraining ourselves to that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to do things differently from people. We
Mm.
don't always have to be in this high productivity state. I used to love having a giant to-do list because I love that feeling of striking things off my to-do list.
Yeah.
Right? I used to love doing that. And I realized over time, the more that I did that, the more I was burning myself out. And I used to experience burnout quite regularly.
Okay.
And also coupled with being a parent as well, and other family responsibilities too, and also trying to get my own personal things done. I didn't realize how much I would be burning myself out. So it's really taking me a long time um, to change the way that I do things. I think last year was, it was definitely slightly of an exception because of my exhibition. But
Mm.
I'm also learning now that last year was a different kind of productivity, right? It was just for me, it was me learning how to harness the dragon energy to get everything that I need done for my exhibition. And you know what? Like, even as my first ever event, because it's not just an exhibition, it's a full-blown event. You went for a few days. I even had some food and drinks catered for like the opening night and whatnot. And I would say for my first time doing it and based off my other experiences in the past, I would say that it was pretty good. Like there was maybe
Yeah.
a few little things here and there that could have been better, but it wasn't a flop. It wasn't this or that. Everyone had a great time, and I was very proud of that. And I was just thankful that I managed to manage my energy really well, and I feel like I was just very supportive, even from my friends. My friends who helped me with the exhibition were so fantastic. And then now, when it comes back to this year, I definitely, of course, a part of me was just like, yeah, but we did all this stuff last year, like pretty much like what you said before, right? And I'm like, okay, like we want to get stuff done. We want to head into a new direction. I actually also want to start doing more in person like workshops for people, right? Because now I
Yes.
feel like I have that energy to share, and I realize if I'm going to do that, I definitely need to slow down a lot more so that I
Mm,
can actually organize all the information that I want to share within a more intimate space with other people.
mm.
And I can't really do that if I'm constantly being on the go, right?
No,
Yeah. And
that's
even with
powerful.
yeah, and even with the burnout situation, one of my friends, we talk almost every day. We've been accountability buddies for I don't know 6 7 years, and we don't even live in the same state, right?
Yeah.
And we've always been helping each other, get the important things done that we need to get done, and we would share our ideas and whatnot. And she's also suffered from burnout too,
Mm,
and we would support each other and saying, hey, okay, this is a tough week. We got all this stuff done, but what are the top two most important things that both of us need to get done? And how
mm.
can we just manage our energy a bit better so that we don't fall into burnout again, right? Because burnout is a pattern, right? And
Yeah.
that pattern comes from so many different influences and factors. And uh, in some cases, it's we just feel like, oh, but if we slow down, nothing will get done, or we
Mm,
can't catch up, or we'll fall behind. But actually, when you do slow down, you will actually be able to see things more clearer, right? It's
mhm.
like when you're out at the shopping center and you see, if you just stand still for a moment and pause and you see everyone going by, you can actually observe more. And
Yeah.
that's how I'm seeing it too. The more I slow down, the more that I can actually see and actually be more efficient. That's what I want to get to is you observe more and you're more efficient with how you're using your energy so that you're not getting stuck in the cycle of I'm just gonna put all my energy everywhere and then burn myself out and then
Yeah.
start all over again. Yeah.
And busyness is not always efficiency, just being overly busy, but we have been taught by the world. And I think that working into this energy too of wood snake for this year, I'm very much feeling that we're moving into a yang energy of divine masculine, but in a strong, gentle way, not with that toxic masculinity that so many of us are seeing, but in our own inner energy of discernment and calm. There's planning and there's procedure, but there's also patience and waiting. So we're all being initiated in a way into that inner masculine of the best kind of energy of that, of knowing when to act and when not to, and not to give oneself away to everything all of the time. So I think that's really powerful that you are sharing that too, and being willing to understand, as you say, burnout is a pattern. And so you do need to look at that for yourself and look at what are the factors that contribute to it, because I think so many of us, especially in this modern age, are experiencing it in different ways. And it is a real thing, so we need to address it. But being having that quality of the calm inner part that can take responsibility, but also know when to step back and not to be fooled, as you said, by just the constant on the constant treadmill that doesn't actually get us anywhere ultimately.
Mm. I think when it comes to burnout too, that also comes from this belief that if we don't perform to a certain extent, or if we don't deliver to a certain extent, bad things will happen. However, that
Yeah.
bad thing is, like for me, it'll be like, oh, I'm going to get into trouble, or
Ah,
people are going to be disappointed in me, or people are going to get angry at me if I don't do this, that, that. That's why I need to, etc. Right? And sometimes you really surprise yourself when you just go, you know what, I'm already late. Like, okay, I'll learn from next time to leave the house earlier. And then when you get there, they're like, oh, hey, you made it. You're like, oh, you're not angry at me? No, no, it's fine. It's like, oh, okay, so I didn't
freedom.
have to, yeah, yeah. So for me, I think I've been actually getting really good at it this year. Not in terms of being late, just going, you know what, this is just it. This is how it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get myself stuck into this space of, oh, I'm going to something bad's going to happen if this happens, or if I don't do this or whatever. I'm just going to let it be, because that's just how it is in that moment in time, and I'm learning to be more comfortable with that. I still have, and I think also there's a fine line between just standards and also just being that perfect version, if you will.
Yeah.
I do have high standards, right? I like, as a I do want things done a certain way, because I care about quality, I care about certain things. It's like, the values that come with that. But then there's also a point where I go, you know what? No, that's good enough. It's not exactly how I want it to be,
Mm.
but it's good enough, because sometimes the other person might not see what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, so when it comes to coming back to that higher productivity state, sometimes I go, oh, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm actually feeling it like in my chest, or in my legs, or wherever it is. All right, I need to tell myself, okay, let's take a step back. What's going on here? Why are we feeling overwhelmed? It's like, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed because I feel like I need to get this done. But like I'm having so many issues or whatever. I'm just like, okay, like, can you go ahead with this despite the issues? Yeah, if I get rid of this stuff, right? Like, okay, so I kind of like need to have this like really honest conversation with myself. And I talk to myself a lot. And I need to have this conversation with myself to go, okay, is this worth you feeling pressured about yourself? Is this worth all the things that, you're feeling right now? Or can we actually just let go of the expectation a little bit, and just calm down a little bit, so that we at least get 80% of our expectation done. So sometimes that just happens, and I go, yeah, you know
Mm.
what? Let's just go with that, and I'll feel a lot lighter, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I was the one that was putting pressure on myself, because um, I had this belief that it needed to be done a certain way, so that I just avoided all the things that I used to be fearful of. And I think having those like honest conversations with ourselves can actually bring us back into the present, and stop living in that past so much with how we used to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're always our harshest critics. And the other thing is, nobody learns by having pressure put on them. So when you're mean to yourself and you're saying, oh, I should have done this, it's hard to break the pattern of that sort of stress response. Whereas that example you gave of saying, well, I'm already late, so I'll just take my time and I'll get there, is the repatterning and the reteaching yourself, like the kind, if you want to use the term, sort of parenting yourself. Nobody learns from being constantly scolded all of the time. That just shuts you down. So gentling in and saying, I'm doing my best now, as you say, having these kind conversations with yourself, and saying to yourself, things don't have to be perfect, and trusting is that process of refining and healing the parts of the self that feel that they're not worthy. We heal them with kindness and love, and not through constant berating of it was never good enough, because you just said yourself, people don't always notice. And I've done that myself. I think it through what I want it to be, and I present it, and I'm concerned about the response, but that's just all inside me. Everybody else receives it. And so we need to be our own, like the own support system and kindness, because it starts with us, and it's always worse in your own mind than what people are going to think. So it is about that. I love you keep saying that a few times. Step back, like just take a breath and step back, and don't just be in it, and be pounding away with that harsh energy. So even for an artist, I think this is beautiful. It's for any human, it doesn't matter what kind of job you do, there's that sort of idea of maybe the perfectionism wants to creep in, and how do we circumvent that to just come through with what we really need to offer, what we want to share in the world. Otherwise, it will never get shared, if it's always being whittled away by these kind of belief systems.
I agree with that. And this is basically what my art has been teaching me ever since I first started, is being present, right? When I'm, conversing with other people, at events, or even with my friends, I always, I will share a little bit more about mindfulness exercise. And actually, what I realized was that was what my art was teaching me, is to slow down, to be present. Because when you're present in the now, and you also you're with yourself, right? You're not with past version of yourself or future version of yourself. For instance, I remember past job that I used to be at was all about working really good under pressure. I'm just like, why are you like stress testing me to make this perfect thing for whatever it is? And who knows, maybe the client might hate it or whatever it is, right? You never know. So there was always that. And then there was that future self who I think that, oh, what would this, really successful entrepreneurial artist be? Would they be working really hard? Would they be, spending 8-hour days just making art, all that kind of stuff, right? So sometimes you just go back and forth between like the past and future. And when I'm actually, and not just making my art, even if I'm just being by myself, like drinking my coffee or, just reading a book or whatever, when I tell myself, okay, like, we're here right now, just notice what's around me, how I'm feeling, and how I'm feeling in my body is also something that I've been learning more of. It's just to really just be in my body and just feel whatever that I'm feeling, right? And being present and learning how to be present and practicing mindfulness regularly to the point that it's just part of your lifestyle now has really helped me to pretty much like, yeah, evolve my creative process to stick with my goals and my passions of being the artist that I want to be, that I'm meant to be. And yeah, like I think like like just learning to harness all this in is such a powerful thing for us to live healthier lives. I'm not
Mm,
talking just like, physically healthy too, like, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, understanding like how our emotions come into play too. I've been learning
yeah.
that for quite a while now. And again, continuous journey. And I'm absolutely happy with that because there's just so much to learn, right? And yeah, just flowing with that and accepting what is and just being grateful for all of it as well.
Mm. Yeah, when you were talking about giving yourself the kudos and saying, I am a successful artist, and that program, that event went really well. I don't think we should underestimate the power of giving ourselves some praise like that. And for you, it was arising naturally as you were just open to the process and allowing your friends to help you and allowing them to witness. So everything you've shared here is really powerful, and I appreciate your time with that. Also speaking to an actual artist, because I see us all being as artists, the artists of our own life,
Mm.
but someone who works with art and offers that to the world. And you're talking about all these same themes, that have gripped you, that work with you, and yet you have the presence and the patience to witness them and to work through them to make the art even more beautiful and, as I say, not perfect, but even more sort of truthful and authentic. And I'm really excited for you on the journey with this, the legacy of allowing that to be composted and go where that needs to go, and opening up even more now to whatever art wants to come through you in the world. So thank you for sharing too about everybody. It's that I am here and it is now. What is in the present moment for you? And can we stop for a moment and allow ourselves to be present, as you said, even to the uncomfortable feelings? What is going on right now in the body, and allow the mind to just settle. And mindfulness is the number one thing, really, for you to get any part of your life done at all, is to work with peace and allowing the mind to be at peace and not letting it run the show and be the emperor, and letting it be a part of the many working parts that make up the one human soul having this experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody, again, I encourage you to look. I'll have Germaine's links in the podcast information. Have a look at her art, and certainly if you've been watching the video, if you've experienced the mandala behind. Before we close, can you just sum up the mandala behind Germaine, the energy of what it represents, perhaps, or something about its journey into the world for anyone watching or anyone who wants to connect with your art as these transmissions of energy?
Yeah, so the I wanted the mandala to represent heartfelt connection and not just connection between two people or between, maybe not necessarily human connection, it could be human spirit connection or human animal connection, but also connection with self. I speak a lot about self connection, self love, self discovery, a lot of self themes because I've learned over time that we give so much of our energy to other people, but we always forget about ourselves. And when we do actually spend time to slow down and give back to ourselves, we can notice so much of a difference it makes, right? So I named this mandala Hridaya, which is Sanskrit for um, to give and receive love in perfect balance. That's a loose translation, I believe, because yeah, like there's I don't think there's a very accurate word for word translation, but that yeah, I thought that when I saw what that meant, I was like, oh, this is just perfect for the mandala. And so
Mm.
I have the t-shirts and the hoodies made with the mandala on the center, and I thought that's absolutely perfect because it's right on your heart center too. And actually, one of my new pieces that I'm working on includes this mandala, and it's a portrait piece. And I haven't actually done a lot of portrait pieces in my past, so that's a little bit of a sneak preview of what I'll be working on over the next few months is more portraiture pieces in my work. So yeah, I'm
Oh,
very excited for that.
amazing. And that's the thing with mandalas for everybody, that they have that transmission of energy within them. So if you're attracted to one, you have that peace. It's like it emanates. It's like having a crystal in your environment. It's emanating its energy into your world for anyone looking at art like that. So I'm grateful to have received it and to seen it. And I do like that sneak peek. I can see the beauty of that journey. So thank you very much for being here in my space and for sharing your heart with the listeners. And I wish you a lot of joy and excitement with the next step on the artistic journey. So
Thank you so
everybody
much for
listen,
having me here.
it's just been beautiful. I thank you very much. And everyone have check out Germaine's art and just feel into that, because there's something beyond words when you receive the visuals of someone's artistry, their use of color, everything that comes through their soul into your life. It's inspiring, it's uplifting, and we all have the capability to be that artist, to work with our energy and to create something of beauty to offer the world. So never ever underestimate the power of your inner artist, and be that kind person who steps back, be the kind, I want to say parent, I want to say judge, but someone who offers yourself truth and wisdom, and doesn't get caught up in the sort of the rat race of what there is, because there's so much more to life than that. So Germaine, again, thank you for your time. Thank you to the beauty of your art space.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've had such a great time, Laura.
It's been really great chatting to you. All right, everyone, well, bye for now. There'll be one more episode coming up in the 10,000 Hours Counting podcast. Bye, everyone.